Chapter 8, Part 1, 25 Steps to Building a Positive Personality. He who would learn to fly one day must first learn to stand and walk and run. Friederich Nietzsche. Step 1. Accept responsibility. Responsibility gravitate to the person who can shoulder them. Albert Hubbard. When people accept additional responsibility, they are actually giving themselves a promotion. Responsible behavior is to accept accountability. That represents maturity. Acceptance of responsibility is a reflection of our attitude and the environment we operate in. Most people are quick to take credit for what goes right, but very few would readily accept responsibility when things go wrong. A person who does not accept responsibility is not absolved from being responsible. Your objective is to cultivate responsible behavior. Stop the blame game. Avoid phrases such as everyone else does it, or no one does it, or it is all your fault. People who don't accept responsibility shift the blame to their parents, teachers, and genus, God, fate, luck, or the stars. Responsible behavior should be inculcated right from childhood. It cannot be taught without a certain degree of obedience. Johnny said, Mama Jimmy broke the window. Mama asked, how did he do it? Johnny replied, I threw a stone at him and he ducked. People who use their privileges without accepting responsibility usually end up losing their privileges. Responsibility involves thoughtful action. Pettiness causes us to ignore our responsibilities. Think about it. Petty minds are busy passing the buck rather than doing what needs to be done. Social responsibility. Ancient Indian wisdom teaches us that our first responsibility to the community, second to our family, and third to ourselves. When this hierarchy is reversed, a society starts degenerating. Social responsibility ought to be the moral obligation of every citizen. Responsibility and freedom go hand in hand. A sign of a good citizen is that he is willing to pull his own weight. The price of greatness is responsibility. Winston Churchill. Societies are not destroyed so much by the activities of rascals, but by the inactivity of good people. What a paradox. If good people can tolerate destruction by being inactive, how can they be good? The question is, are they discharging their social responsibility? For evil to flourish, good people have to do nothing and evil shall flourish. Edmund Burke. Step 2. Show consideration. A 10-year-old boy went to an ice cream shop, sat at a table, and asked the waitress, how much is an ice cream cone? She said, 75 cents. The boy started counting the coins he had in his hand. Then he asked how much a small cup of ice cream was. The waitress impatiently replied, 65 cents. The boy said, I will have the small ice cream cup. The boy ate his ice cream, paid the bill, and left. When the waitress came to pick up the empty plate, she was touched. Underneath were 10 1-cent coins left as the tip. The young boy had a consideration of waitress before he ordered his ice cream. He showed sensitive and caring. He thought of others before himself. If we all thought like that little boy, we would have a great place to live. Show consideration, courtesy, and politeness. Thoughtfulness shows an caring attitude. Step 3. Think win-win. A man died and St. Peter asked him if he would like to go to heaven or hell. The man asked if he could see both before deciding. St. Peter took him to hell first. There the man saw a big hall containing a long table, laden with many kinds of food. He also saw rows of people with pale, sad faces. They looked starved and there was no laughter. And he observed one more thing. Their hands were tied to forks and knives, and they were trying to get the food from center of the table to put into their mouths. But they couldn't. Then St. Peter took him to see heaven. There he saw a big hall with a long table with lots of food. He noticed rows of people on both sides of the table with their hands tied to forks and knives also. But here people were laughing and were well fed and healthy looking. The people were fleeing on one another across the table. The result was happiness, prosperity, enjoyment, and gratification because they were not thinking of themselves alone. They were thinking win win. The same is true of our lives. When we serve our customers, our families, our employees, and employees, we automatically win. Step 4. Choose your words carefully. A person who says whatever he likes usually ends up hearing what he doesn't like. Be tactful. Tact consists of choosing one's word carefully and knowing how far to go. It also means knowing what to say and what to leave unsaid. Talent without tact may not always be desirable. Words reflect attitude. Words can hurt feeling and destroy relationships. More people have been hurt by an improper choices of words than by any natural disaster. Choose what you say rather than say what you choose. That is difference between wisdom and foolishness. Excessive talking does not mean communication. Talk less, say more. A fool speaks without thinking. A wise man thinks before speaking. Words spoken out of bitterness can cause irreparable damage. The way parents speak to their children in many instances shapes their children's destiny. Spoken words can't be retrieved. A farmer slandered his neighbor. Realizing his mistake, he went to the preacher to ask forgiveness. The preacher told him to take a bag of feathers and drop them in the center of town. The farmer did as he was told. Then the preacher asked him to go and collect the feathers and put them back in the bag. The farmer tried but couldn't, as the feathers had all blown away. When he returned with the empty bag, the preacher said, "The same thing is true about your words. You drop them rather easily, but you cannot retrieve them. You need to be very careful in choosing your words." Step 5. Don't criticize and complain. When I talk of criticism, I refer to negative criticism. When a person is criticized, he becomes defensive. A critic is often like a backseat driver who drives the driver mad. Does that mean we should never criticize? Nor can we give positive criticism. Positive criticism. How do you offer constructive criticism? Criticize with a spirit of helpness rather than a put down. Offer a solution to your criticism. Criticize the behavior, not the person. Because when we criticize the person, we hurt their self-esteem. The right to criticize comes with the desire to help. As long as the act of criticizing does not give pleasure to the giver, it is okay. When giving criticism becomes a pleasure, it is time to stop. Some suggestion for giving criticism that motivates others. Be a coach. Criticize with helpful attitude. A coach criticizes to help improve performance of the athlete. Understanding and concern will act as motivator. The attitude should be corrective rather than punitive. Be specific rather than saying things like you always or you never. Vague criticism causes resentment. Get your facts right. Don't jump to conclusions. We all have the right to our opinions, but we don't have the right to incorrect facts. Don't rush to criticize. Maintain your cool but be firm. Criticize to pursue, not intimidate. Don't be sarcastic as it builds resentment. If criticism is given appropriately, it will reduce the need for repetition. Criticize in private, not in public. Why? Because it maintains goodwill, whereas public criticism can be humiliating. Give the other person an opportunity to explain his side. Show them how they would benefit from correcting their mistake. Point out the loss from not correcting it. Rather than telling, ask for suggestion for improvement. Question the action, not the intent. If intent is unquestioned, then it is better to terminate the relationship. Criticize the performance, not the performer. Don't express normal resentment. Keep criticism in perspective. Don't overdo it. Criticism is like giving medication. The medication should be the right mixture with perfect dosage. Too much will have adverse effects and too little will be ineffective. Give in a positive way in the right dosage. It can work wonders. When someone realizes and admits his mistake and apologizes, let him save face. Close on a positive note with appreciation. Receiving criticism. There will be a times when you will be criticized, sometimes justly and sometimes unjustly. The greatest people in the world have been criticized. Justified criticism can be very helpful and should be taken positively as feedback. Unjustified criticism is really a compliment in disguise. It is average person who hates winners. When people are not successful and have nothing else to talk about, they make you the target. The only way you will never be criticized is if you do nothing, say nothing or have nothing. You will end up being big nothing. Unjust criticism comes from two sources. Number one, ignorance. When criticism is given out of ignorance, it can easily be eliminated or corrected by building awareness of the facts. Number two, jealousy. When the criticism springs from jealousy, it takes as a compliment in disguise. You are being unjustly criticized because the other person wants to be where you are. The tree that bears the most fruits also get the most stones. There is another breed of people who are willing to help others until the others are able to help themselves. But as soon as they are able to help themselves, this group of people make life as miserable and as uncomfortable as possible. This is part of life and we have to succeed. We have to do in spite of them. This kind of behavior is the result of jealousy. An inability to accept constructive criticism is a sign of a poor self-esteem. Suggestion for accepting criticism. Take it in the right spirit. Deal with it graciously rather than grudgingly. Evaluate it with an open mind. If it makes sense, accept it. Learn from it and implement it. Don't be defensive. Accept constructive criticism immediately and empathetically. Why? Because it disarms the other person. If we don't, it will irritate him even more, and in future, you will not give constructive criticism. If we use this as a tactic, it will work only once. But if we are sincere, it will work time after time. Thank the person who gives constructive criticism because he means well and has helped you. A person with high self-esteem accepts positive criticism and becomes better, no bitter. The problem with most people is they would rather be ruined by false praise than profit by constructive criticism. Complaints. Some people are chronic complainers. If it is hot, it is too hot. If it is cold, it is too cold. Every day is bad day. They complain even if everything goes right. Why complain? Because 50% of people don't care if you have got a problem and the other 50% are happy that you have got a problem. What is the point of complaining? Nothing come out of it. It becomes a personality trait. Does that mean we should never complain or invite complaints? Not at all. Just like criticism, if it is done in a positive way, complaints can be very useful. A constructive complaint. A. Shows that the complainer cares. B. Gives the receiver of complaints a second chance to correct himself. Step 6. Smile and be kind. Smile. A smile costs nothing but it creates much. It enriches those who receives it without impoverishing those who gives it. It happens in a flash, and the memory of it may last forever. None are so rich that they can't get along without it, and none so poor that they cannot be richer for its benefits. It creates happiness in the home, fosters goodwill in the business, and is the countersign of friends. It is rest to the weary, daylight to the discouraged, sunshine to the sad, and nature's best antidote for trouble. Yet it cannot be begged, bought, borrowed, or stolen, for it is something that is worth nothing to anyone until it is given away. In the course of the day, some of your acquaintances may be too tired to give you a smile. Give them one of yours. Nobody needs a smile so much as those who have none left to give. Cheerfulness flows from goodness. A smile can be fake or genuine. The key is to have a genuine one. It takes more muscle to frown than to smile. It is easier to smile than frown. It improves face value. Who likes to be around a grouch? No one except maybe a bigger grouch. A smile is a contagious and is an inexpensive way to improve looks. A smiling face is always welcome. Step 7. Put positive interpretation on others people's behavior. In the absence of sufficient facts, people instinctively put a negative interpretation on others, action or inaction. Some people suffer from paranoia. They think the world is out to get them. That is not true. By starting with positive assumptions, we have a better chance of building a pleasing personality resulting in good relationship. For example, how often have we put through a call and not gotten a reply from the other party for 2 days, and the first thought that comes out of mind is, they never cared to return my call, or they ignored me. That is negative, maybe. They tried but couldn't get through. They left a message we did not get. They had an emergency. They never got the message. There could be many reasons. It is worth giving the benefit of doubt to the other person and starting on positive notes. Step 8. Be a good listener. One often reads that the art of conversation is dying, but wouldn't you agree that infinitely more valuable and rare is good listener? Ask yourself these questions. How does it make you feel when you wanted somebody to listen to you and they did more talking than listening? They disagreed with the first thing you said. They interpreted you at every step. They were impatient and completed every sentence you started. They were physically present but mentally absent. They heard but did not listen. You had to repeat the same thing 3 times because the other person wasn't listening. They, they came to conclusions unrelated to facts. They asked questions on unrelated topics. They were fidgety and distracted. They were obviously not listening or paying attention. All these things show disinterest in the person or the topic and total lack of courtesy. Do the following word describe the feeling of not being listened to? Neglected, rejected, dejected, let down, unimportant, small, ignored, belittled, annoyed, stupid, worthless, embraced, demotivated, disheartened. Let's reverse the scenario. How does it make you feel when you want someone to listen to you and they make you comfortable, give you their undivided attention, ask appropriate and relevant questions, show interest in your subject? Do the following words describe the feeling of being listened to? Important, pleased, satisfied, worthwhile, cared for, good, happy, appreciated, encouraged, inspired. What are the sum of barriers to effective listening? External barriers, internal barriers. External barriers, physical, noise fatigue. Internal barriers, distraction, preoccupation or absence mindedness. Prejudice and prejudging people, no interest in subject or speaker. There could be intellectual barriers such as language, comprehension, etc. In order to inspire others to speak, be a good listener. Listening shows caring. When you show a caring attitude toward another person, the person feels important. When he feels important, what happens? He is more motivated and more receptive to your ideas. An open ear is the only believable sign of an open heart. David Huxberger. In order to be a good listener, encourage the speaker to talk. Ask questions, it shows interest. Don't interrupt. Don't change the topic. Show understanding and respect. Pay attention. Concentrate. Avoid distraction. Show empathy. Be open minded. Don't let preconceived ideas and prejudice prevent you from listening. Concentrate on the message and not on the delivery. Recognize the non-verbal communication such as facial expression, eye contact, etc. They might be communicating a different message from the verbal. Listen to feeling and not just words.